Hello, hello, hello. Can everyone hear me? Awesome, awesome. Okay, thank you, and welcome to another episode of Supportive Advice Live. I appreciate you all joining. I have my panel here, Mo and Mr. Mochismo. I'm going to invite you both to speak. All right, so I have both Mr. Machismo, aka Dante, and Mojo, aka Monicia, here. Thank you so much for joining. I appreciate the both of you so very much. The world would be boring with only one point of view. So today I found a couple of Am I the A-holes, right? And one of them is, am I the asshole for embarrassing my wife by making her admit that she has a stepson? And then the other one is, am I the asshole for telling my sister to stop saying I have pretty privilege and it's her fault she looks ugly? Which one of these would you guys like to dive into today?
Flip a coin.
I don't have a coin. Do you?
Hold on. Hold on.
And then tell me which one is heads and which one's is tails.
So the heads will be what's that? The stepdaughter thingy bob.
Okay,
And
so
then
the stepson will
oh
be
stepson.
heads. Yeah.
And then the other one was the pretty. Yeah, that'll be
Pretty
tails.
privilege. That's tails. Okay. All right.
I'm
Let's.
I'm voting for Tails. Come on, Tails. Let's go. Let's go.
All
There we
right.
go.
All right. Let's see.
I don't know if y'all heard that.
I heard it. We heard it.
We have heads.
Oh
Oh.
man.
We
Okay.
have heads.
We have
Now, yeah, I
heads.
mean, the panel
I,
can veto, but that was a sanctioned coin flip.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to stay true to the coin, right? And we're going to look into heads. So I'll read this here. Am I the asshole for embarrassing my wife by making her admit that she has a stepson? I'm sure it's not going to be what we think that it is, right? Because, come on. So there's an edit already. We have an edit. Before we had the wedding, when she visited him, she was rather warm toward him in the way a girlfriend is when meeting her boyfriend's son, which is why I agreed to the marriage and wedding. Afterwards, she said that now, because it's official and he would be living with her all the time, she's finding it hard to adjust. Earlier, she was very nice to him and treated him well whenever she saw him. So that was the edit. So just make sure that we're putting that into to context, right, as we're reading through. All right, so he is a 42. The person that's talking is a 42-year-old male. His wife is a 38-year-old female, and her name is, well, okay, we're not doing no names. And I have been married for a few months now. We have four children together, and three of them are my stepdaughters. They are one of them is 16, another one of them is 14, and another one of them is 15. And then he has a son who is 10, and this is through a previous marriage. So it sounds like they have a blended family essentially. So the wife has always been indifferent towards the son. I will make it clear that she does not hate him and does not make his life difficult in any overt way. She just pretends as if he is not a member of the family. I have asked her to warm up to him, but she just shrugs it off. But as there hasn't really been a fight regarding the issue before, I did not want to start one, and I kept it quiet. She was invited along with us for her friend's wedding. We went there, and after the wedding, she was talking to her friend. Her friend asked her whether they were her kids by pointing to the four of them as they were standing some distance away. She said, "Yeah, the girls are," and mentioned who was who. I was shocked that she had implied that my son was not her child. But she gave me a "don't bring that up now" look. I know that look. When I looked at her in disbelief, I told her friend, she won't admit it, but the boy is her son too. He's her stepson, and she doesn't like him. Oh, that's something. Um, she was mortified as the others realized this and attempted to laugh it off by saying that she had not noticed the boy, thought it was another boy. Later, though she severely accused me of embarrassing her, she said that if she, I don't know why my reading is so jacked. I do know how to read, people, just want to throw that out there. I have a master's degree. She said that if she doesn't want to consider blank as her son, it's her choice. That resulted in a full-blown argument, which makes me think that I might be the a-hole. Okay, so I try to look at these situations in a very non-biased way, right? As I would as a therapist, but there's always some bias that seems to kind of spill out because as a therapist I don't self-disclose. I don't give any information about my life. I don't make anything about me, right? But in my podcast, I'm a little bit more personable in the sense that I do self-disclose. And so that creates bias. It's just that is what it is. With that being said, as a person that is in a blended family, that's rough. That's rough. It's rough. It is rough. You want your significant other to see your children as their children. In some cases, I can't speak for every case. There are some families, blended families where the parents are very much okay, claiming the kids that's theirs, not claiming the kids that's not there, especially when there's active dads or moms, in the picture, right? And so, I know in my case, my older two, very active dad, and so I wasn't necessarily looking for a father, for them when I was dating. It wasn't like, oh, I need a dad for my, for my kids or whatnot. They have a very active dad. However, I did notice that, as time went on, whenever there was differentiation, between, the child that was born within the marriage and the children that were not, it really hurt my feelings. It really hurt my feelings. My significant other refers to my children as their stepchildren. They don't refer to my children as their daughters. And, and it hurts. It hurts, but, it is what it is, right? And so I'm kind of feeling I'm kind of feeling where the guy is coming from, because there's also times where where I might feel like my significant other doesn't like my kids, that I had previous to being in a relationship, with them, or like maybe there's a comparison. I say often I'll say they're all my kids, so like I'm gonna feel the same about all the kids because they all came from me, and so but there is a differentiation there, and I think that can be something that's natural. It's not something that's purposeful. But I am really shocked in this particular case because she has children from a previous relationship too, and it sounds like she has this expectation that he see them as his children, but then she doesn't claim his son as her child. It's sticky trying to date after divorce, or trying to date after you've had children in other relationships. But I've talked enough, right? Mr. Machismo, talk to me.
We should have did the pretty one. No, I'm just kidding. Nah, I mean, it's
I'm
kind of
glad we did this one. I mean, I'm a marriage and family therapist. This is my jam. Systems are my jam, and blended
this is
systems are systems.
right in your wheelhouse. Okay, I get it. I mean that I got more questions because it's like, is she disliking him because like it's like why? Like they're like what's I got is this is it a sub did because I don't know if I missed like is there like he had the son and he got other children, right?
No, he has the son, and that's it. He has the
Oh,
son from a
oh,
previous marriage. She has three daughters from a previous relationship, and they
oh,
both they got married, and they brought all the four children together. But she continues to differentiate. She'll say the girls are mine, but the boy, he's not mine. Like she differentiates. And when she did it at this wedding or whatever the event was, he said, "Well, my son is her son. My
no,
son is her son too. He's her stepson." And obviously she doesn't like him very much.
no,
He just called her out.
because it is definitely from what I've seen, it has nothing to do with the son. It's about what the son represents, the past, and I think because of her just who she is as a person, her desire to be not just the one, but the everything that ever existed in his universe.
Hmm.
Subconsciously, there's a little bit of a disdain for the young man. He's kind of like a product of just being part of the past, and that's so that makes her definitely the a hole. But it's like I I won't say I I can at least come up with a logical explanation so I can process it. But that my opinion about that is like it's I mean, especially some if I'm married, it's blood in blood out. They all mine.
I
It's
can't
over.
hear blood. You're right.
Blood, you signed the death row now. It's over. It don't matter who you signed to before. If you don't want your manager in your videos, well, I mean for real though, but definitely it's yeah that is my hypothesis that
Okay.
she probably is resenting the ex and just the fact that there was a woman before her, more than the kid itself.
And I get the logic. I 100% get the logic, right? Because even in my personal situation, my significant other was married previous to being with me, right? And so that was a whole other relationship that was official, you know, and and I had two children, previous to meeting my significant other. So um we both had previous relationships that were well documented. Mine's by birth certificates and his is by a marital certificate. Before we could even get married, we had to go down to the courthouse, and they looked up the previous marriage or whatnot, and they had to make sure that everything was like done with that, and all the I's were dotted and T's were crossed, and that was an awkward situation. That was not the funniest thing, but you know similar to that, again, my two daughters, they have a very active dad. So, my significant other really had to be a good sport, because their dad wanted to be, and still does, want to be at parent teacher conference, or, birthdays, or anything where there is a gathering for the child, or for the sake of the child. They're active for the most part, and they're married as well. So it can get very convoluted. But in this particular case, the female has children too, and that's my thing. Like, I think that I could give her more leniency or grace, I mean, just from a mindset. If she didn't have any kids and she was coming into this, and she was just like, okay, I'm trying to adjust to this, but you want him to take on, your kids like they're his kids. Your kids was from a different relationship too. Like, come on now, that doesn't make any sense. If you want this, then it's important for you to be able to do it as well. I mean, I'm not saying that it's contextual in the sense that, oh, well, if you don't do it, then he shouldn't do it, and vice versa. But I am saying that you should at least be able to bring to the table what you're asking for. Mo, what's your thoughts? I can't wait to hear what you got to say. Come on, Mo.
I'm coming. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, so I got a lot to say. You know why?
Wow.
I was brought up. My grandfather, my real grandfather, um, he was in and out, but he couldn't even say my name. But my step grandfather, who I never called my step grandfather, I call him granddad, and I love that man, and that man loved me. And he was so good to me. That's all I can say. He was a good grandfather to me, and he was also a dad to me. And if it wasn't for him, I probably really wouldn't know what it is, or what it feels like to be loved by a man unconditionally and correctly, right?
Yes.
So there's so many different things that you have to deal with in a blended family. So my grandfather let me, so we can be clear of what I'm talking about. So my step grandfather was married to my grandmother. I lived in the house with them. Those are my grandparents, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now he had other grandchildren. He had his children, and many of them didn't like me because I was in the house and I got the most time with him. Me and him did so many things together that I was really disliked. And some people kind of showed in their actions that they hated me because I was the one that was there, right?
Oh, wow.
So I'll give you an example. When my grandfather died, one of his daughters said to me, she said, she said, I can't remember exactly what she said, but that was my dad, and y'all always did this and this and that. And I was like, hold up. You're not about to guilt trip me about my relationship with my granddaddy. Now, this is his original daughter. I said, while he was here, You should have said something to him about your relationship. I'm a child. I was a child, and you're like 8 years older than me. So I didn't tell him to choose me over you, or I didn't tell him, So I had to check her on his funeral day, on the day of his funeral, and say, I'm not about to allow you to guilt trip me for something you was angry about, but was too cowardly to confront while your daddy was alive. Let's not do that.
Wow.
On the other hand, my daughter, her dad, I was talking to this dude for a long time. He was the type that no, ain't no another man ain't about to call. She not about to call no another man daddy.
Uh-oh, I'm losing you a little bit, Mo. You're going out on me.
More
Mo? Okay. Mo, your reception is not that great. But I heard what you said, and I'm with you, and I think that it really just depends on the person, right? Because there's nothing wrong with my significant other, and however he, feels. Essentially, that comes from your family of origin, how you accept or reject different concepts, right? And so, if he came from a family where it was a nuclear system, it was a mother, a father, and three children, and there was no, there really wasn't a lot of blended elements, to the system, then that's not something that person is going to be familiar with. That person might not feel as comfortable with it, and so in that regard, it would make sense for them to make those differentiations, right? Um, and I don't know. So I'm gonna make you a speaker again, Mo. Uh oh. Leave it to me to click off the thing. But it's cool. It is what it is. So I'm gonna invite you to speak again. Um. Okay, you
Can you
there?
hear me?
I can hear you.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Um, so there's so many different perspectives we have to look at with blended families. Blended families are is so difficult. Um, then my step grandfather did not like my grandmother kids, which was my mother and my aunt. He treated them totally different than how he treated me. My
Oh
mom
wow.
and my aunt really disliked him, and honestly, they had a right to because he didn't treat them good. So I'm not sure every family situation is different, but
Mm-hmm.
I know right now, even my daughter said, if you get married, I first of all, she said, I don't want you to get married. I said, why be a hater? You know what I'm saying? You get that
You know
from
what
your
I'm
daddy's
saying?
side.
Right.
You get that from your daddy's side. No, I'm just joking. Okay. So, and then she says, I'm not going to call him dad. And I'm not going to listen to him. And I said, well, listen.
Mm-hmm.
Either way you like it or not, you going to have another daddy. And I'm going to be married. And if he has kids, I believe that all the kids are my kids. So even if he has additional kids, I will call them my kids. But then you have some parents who will be like, why she calling her? Why she calling my son her son? That ain't her son. It's just so many different scenarios and things I can come up with just from people I know and situations about blended family and some of the issues of having a blended family.
I'm with you. I will say that my oldest daughter was about it had to be like 11 or 12. I think around 11 when when me and my significant other made things official. And then my youngest daughter, she was about, I want to say 5, something like that. And so yeah, around there, they were either 4 and 10 or 5 and 11. I don't, but they were. She was older essentially. And so she had already expressed, like, this is my dad. This is going, this is the person that I see as my dad. This is my dad. Um, I'm not really comfortable calling anybody else dad. And so there's that was that aspect too. And even my youngest daughter doesn't call my significant other dad. you know um they essentially they have someone that they call dad. Um and you know and 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 I think that making that differentiation um might make it easier for my significant other, so that they don't feel rejected, because I can only imagine saying, yeah, these are my daughters, and they're like, nah. you know so it so it comes from both ends, even though for me I'm hurt because I'm like, no, claim them and love them. There is a part of self preservation that also takes effect too, where it's like, well, they're not really claiming me like that either. And so you can't ignore that part of it. But as far as the wife is concerned, if she was here in a session with me, I would definitely probe to see what type of family she grew up in. um Whether or not she had grew up in a blended family, or a nuclear family, or possibly a single parent household. And I would really love to get some background of her family of origin, so that I can understand where some of this discomfort may be coming from. Dante, I haven't heard from you in a minute. Talk to me.
No, that's a that's a that's a lot of it's a lot of layers to all that, because it's like, yeah, I see. I never thought about if the kid ain't because I got to thinking like how I would respond to that if someone's, if little poo poo and them like, I don't know you, I don't, that kind of that's a hurdle. That's definitely a hurdle. I think.
A little poo poo.
Uh, l- Little poo poo. That's every little girl's name. Little poo poo. That's like a. I don't know who made it, but it's a
You
law.
sound like you
Check it out.
made it.
All 50 states is a law. But anyway, but definitely, like for the situation purposes, it's like I think it's really more so just that lady's, for lack of a better term, ego, or just lack of ability to get over the past. But then you also brought up a great perspective that we don't know how she grew up.
Right.
She might have grew up, where she. I'm gonna throw it this way: instead of the nuclear family, she might have got attached to two or three different stepdads, and they all left. And so now she just, she don't even want to play that role because she just it's a trigger for her. It's a lot of.
But these people sound white though. You know what I'm saying? No,
I mean, but
I'm
little,
kidding.
you
I'm kidding. I'm
know,
kidding.
Chelsea and them, Chelsea will get around now. Chelsea and Luann, they be out here.
Wow, really? But no,
They'll be out here.
that I mean, I wanna preface it. That was a joke, but it is more commonly expressed, right, in more diverse households, that there are possibly a multitude of father figures, which is less expressed socially in a less diverse household. Even though, like you said, Dante, it could happen in any household. It just depends on the mom. You know, my thing is, he thought it was important. The person who was writing thought it was important to put the edit in that, because I guess people was asking him, so why was you with her then? If she was acting all stank with your son, why would you marry her, right? Which I think is a good question. So I guess he put the edit in so that he could protect his image, and he said that at some point she was nice to the son. She was cool with him. She was nice to him. She treated him cool. She acknowledged him. She didn't say it was her son. She was the girlfriend at the time. I don't know. I don't know. But he said she was cool with him until they got married. And then once it was like an everyday thing and he was living there, and she was kind of like, all right, he ain't my son. I mean, he cool. He's fine. He just ain't my son. And he's 10. Apparently, based off of the storyline here, he's cool with her. He's not like mean to her. She's not mean to him. She's just not as warm as the dad would want, I guess. But he called her out at this wedding. Okay, he called her out, and he said, "This is her son. It's her stepson," which apparently she doesn't like him. Is he the a-hole for how he called her out? What's your thoughts, Mo?
No, no,
Okay, okay.
H to the no. Because first of all, how you gonna be mad? Now you see how I feel when you announce. First of all, he's sharing his expression that he's frustrated and he wants his son to be claimed. And so, who doesn't want their family member to be claimed? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And if he expressed that, I'm sure he expressed that multiple times, or I don't know if he did or not, but let's just say he did in this aspect. And if he expressed that, you may not feel comfortable doing something when your significant other asks you, but it's our job to please one another to the best of our ability, right? And and in that case, I mean, he feel rejected, and then you're making my son feel rejected. Now, it's one thing if the son does say, "Don't, I'm not about to call you daddy," because let's be real, kids tell the truth, and they little truth statements be hurt, and they be real gangster about it. They don't have no grace on it or nothing. We always
They
hear
sure
grace.
don't.
They don't have no grace. They gonna tell you, no, you ain't my daddy, and you would never be my daddy. You ain't my mama. Who you think you is, and your chicken tastes like wood. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna they gonna tell you. So, um, it's two spectrums on that. But I don't think he was the butthole. I think that he was getting his point across. Claim my son, and if you didn't like that embarrassment, basically he was stating he feel embarrassed and ashamed when you claim your kids and not claim mine when we a whole family. We a whole family.
I mean, I feel
So
you. I feel you, and I know that I'm biased as as a mother bringing two children into a relationship. I know that I'm biased because it's like, yeah, like you hear people say, yeah, yeah, this is my son, those is my step kids, or you'll hear someone say, this is my, this is our kid, that those are her kids, and or his kids, all depending, and that's awkward. It's just awkward. It's just awkward. It's just awkward, and that that is what it is. But Dante, weigh in.
Yeah, he is not. he ain't did nothing wrong. Because because he's defending his son's feelings in a way. Because that might affect him. Who knows? But like it's something that I think they just need to have a conversation a little bit and at least get some perspective as to why. Because I'm very curious. Is the mother very active? Does she come over the house all the time? Like, I got questions because it's like, what? How? I don't know. Like, with kids, like how, like whatever they want, kind of. Like, yeah, maybe I'm because I ain't got none yet. Maybe I'm a sucker for kids still. I don't know. Maybe it
But
changed.
Dante, you bring up a good point too. Sometimes the parents don't get along with one another, and some people are immature and they don't know how to separate the mom from the child or the dad from the child and still treat that child as if they are a child versus not their parents and their parents' actions. So you brought up a really good point. You know.
Facts, because it's I've been with a girl who once I came around and was like cool with the kids, the dad didn't want to pick up the kids no more.
Mm.
Like it was like take the what and leave the what? Like what you mean? Like what? Like that was like the most weirdest, most bizarre thing. Like I just didn't understand, especially back then. Like I didn't understand the concept, but now it's like, oh, they were just bitter in general. They might have even thought they could get back. They might have had a foot in the door before, and that now the door shut all the way. It's like, oh no, forget this. I don't like this. I'm about to do something about this any way I can. But that's yeah, because it get messy. It get messy from what I'm seeing over the years. When people are moving on from their child's father or mother, and they move on dating wise or husband and wife, like it get a little funky. It get a little crazy.
I'll second that. It does. It does, and unfortunately, it doesn't say in this scenario whether or not the mom is present, but they do say that the son lives with the father, so the father has custody of the son. So I don't know if the mom has partial custody or if the mom is kind of gone or what's going on there, but the son does live with the dad because it says something about him living there and being there every day. And he wanted to really kind of point in, she does not hate him and she does not do anything to make his life difficult in any way. She just kind of ignores him when she's talking about him. She doesn't refer to him as a part of the family. He can tell that there is significant differentiation as to how she sees him and how she sees her own children. And that's a blended family.
That's hurtful. That's hurtful. That's hurtful. That is really hurtful.
Yeah.
You said he 10 years old,
Yeah, he's 10 years old.
so he can understand and differentiate that I'm being treated differently from the other kids. That's rejection. That's abandonment, and that has to hurt. If it don't hurt him now, it'll hurt him later. But if he's mentioning it, I'm sure the kid said something to his dad, and his dad is bringing that up. So um, that kid is that bothers him, and that's not okay. So how do we come up with a solution? Because this is not the only family that deals with this. How do we correct this problem? Because my son is important to me, and you are too. But I don't want, honestly, if that was me in that situation, I couldn't imagine my daughter feeling that way and feeling like she not a part, or like I'm choosing him over her. You know what I'm saying? And so, or I don't even take her side, or they may think that, My dad don't even take my side. My mom don't even take my side. I couldn't crush my daughter hurt like that.
So you asked what can be done, and I think that's a pointed question, but it's a layered question, right? Because there is different ways that someone would approach this based off of different theories. For instance, there's structural therapy, and in structural therapy, you follow the hierarchy. So there is a parental system, right, and then there is the subsystem, which is the children, right? Or you can look at it as the marital system, and then the parental system, and then out of the parental system, there's the children. But it follows a hierarchy where the husband and the wife, or the man and the woman, the parents are they have to be on an even keel. They have to be on the same page. And supposedly, once they're on the same page, it's supposed to trickle down to the children and how the children are treated in the environment that the children are in, or et cetera, et cetera. So, with that being said, from that perspective, as a therapist, I would address that something is going on with the structure. The parental system is not on the same page. you know for one of the parents is rejecting one of the children in the system. So that can't fly, right? Because if that's happening and you two aren't on the same page, then that leads to triangulation. That leads to specific alignments where, okay, well, I'm going to specifically align with my kids, and then you're going to specifically align with your kid. And so now it's like my kids versus you and your kids. That's not a system. Now all of a sudden you all are adversaries in the same house. So I definitely would address the fact that there's, just from a structural perspective, that there's something going on within the parental system that needs to be addressed. And believe it or not, this doesn't just happen in blended families. I actually have clients that I've worked with where it's the same mom and dad, biological, and there's still that same alignment where one favors one of the kids versus another one that favors another one of the kids, and then all of a sudden there's this triangulation. The system is lopsided because there's this alignment, and something, and there's not, the parents are not a united front, and the kids see the gaps, they exploit the gaps, and then the system, it becomes very lopsided. So with that, it's important that maybe they go to marital counseling, and they talk through some of these issues that they're having, so that the parental and marital system can be adjusted, so that it's trickling down positively on the children versus the system being lopsided and there being all this misalignment. And that's just from a structural standpoint.
So I have another question.
Okay.
So if we have, so as individuals, regardless if it's parents and the blended family, you even said regular family. Let's just talk about relationships in general. Um, Me and my significant other don't see eye to eye on a few things. And so one of us is not bending, one of us has our own strong feelings about a subject. So there's like this person is not budging to have the conversation, or we may have a conversation, but it goes nowhere because we have this big disagreement about whatever it may be. Um, um, I oh Dante always talk about beans, right? He say, "I'm not eating no beans." Okay, well, I'm
Okay.
cooking beans tonight, so I'm tired of making 15 different meals because you don't eat beans and onions and tomatoes. So, like, what's how do we have solutions when one party is not willing to bend on something, or I mean, you have this in all working relationships, um, home relationships, different environments. I,
Absolutely. And, and I think the biggest thing is that individuals sometimes think that conflict is a problem. People, whether they're in a marital relationship, a non-marital relationship, a work relationship, whatever type of relationship, a friendship, people view conflict as something negative, when in actuality, it's a muscle that needs to be built, because there's going to be conflict whenever you're dealing with two different people. There's going to be two individuals that have their own viewpoints on something, right? It's more or less how you are having the conflict. Are you having the conflict in a healthy way or not? Are you having the conflict in a way that's going to build the relationship, or are you having the conflict in a way that's going to tear the relationship down? Are you creating an environment that is safe for your partner to yield, or are you creating an environment where it does not feel safe for them to put down their armor? How are you having the conflict becomes the biggest issue.
even when you talk about conflict, some people consider, what if it's not a conflict and we're just having a conversation and we're having disagreement, you know? And when you say that, that's funny. Earlier this week, I posted something like, having a conversation is not conflict, it's a conversation. You know what I'm saying? Some people feel like just simple conversations, when you bring something up and it's a disagreement, there is a conflict, and that's not always, that's not the case. Let's have the conversation of the issues and let's come up with some solutions.
And it really depends on how you're defining conflict, because the way that you're defining conflict is, and correct me if I'm wrong, the way some would in argument. Because what I really hear you saying is it's a conversation, it's not an argument. So what I hear you contributing is a negative connotation to the word conflict. Confliction is just any time that one thing is different than the other. So anytime there's a different point of view, anytime that there is a disagreement, anytime that there is a conversation where both parties are not on the same page, it's a conflict. But a conflict
Oh,
doesn't have to mean anything negative.
and I meant to add, it was three of them. Confrontation.
Oh,
So
confrontation. Okay, yeah, that's different.
confrontation, conflict, conversation. Yeah, so I mixed it up. Mhm.
Oh no, no problem. Confrontation. I like confrontation. Not because I'm confrontational, but because I think that there is and this comes from a different theory, construction. Lord, let me get it. Um, Constructive confrontation, where
Yeah,
you
that's
are
it.
confronting someone's belief system in a way that is constructive and is not tearing it down. You can
Right,
honor someone else's thought process even if you don't agree with it.
right,
You can go out of your way to understand another person's thought process even if you don't agree with it. And so it becomes very important to understand that when two people are having a conversation and there's difference of views, there's going to be conflict. Where are you making room for that? Are you becoming defensive as soon as you sense that there's conflict? Are you creating an environment where that person can yield? Are they creating an environment in which you feel you can yield? Why is it so important that one point be held over the other? Is there something that can be learned here? And if so, are we both leading with curiosity, or are we leading in defense?
that's good. Yeah, I was sorry, I said it wrong. It was
Oh no, it's okay.
confrontation, conversation, and conflict. Like,
and,
Yeah.
and like you said, confrontation, it also has a negative connotation, but in different theories of psychology, it is or system theories, it is actually important because can you imagine as a person talk or a therapist talking to someone, and you're building rapport, and as you're building rapport you're doing a lot of validating, right? But at some point you have to get to the main thing, right? The person came for a reason because they think something is an issue, right? Or they want to change something, or they're looking to change their perspective or something. So eventually you have to go from a place not where you just go from validating to no longer validating, but where you validate, build rapport, and also are able to get to a point of constructive confrontation.
Truth, not coddling, not going around the bush, not
Right.
come on.
And that is where I feel that I've had the most success as a therapist. I have clients that have told me, I keep coming back to you because you challenge me. You challenge me. You call me out. And it's not in any way that is disrespectful, but I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to always lead with curiosity, and I am going to use constructive confrontation when it's needed. I'm also going to validate you. I'm also going to build rapport with you always, right? But there has to be a mixture unless no change is going to come about it.
What would you say when people don't give constructive confrontation?
Help me out. What do you mean? Like they give
As
negative
in,
confrontation?
or conversation as in, it's like you beat around the bush, you don't tell the truth, because the other person doesn't feel okay with being challenged. You don't really challenge them because they're not okay with it, so you neglect to say certain things to kind of, I feel like it's babying, but um instead of just saying the truth and what it is, so they can be challenged, so they can grow.
So I want to say that there are definitely different ways of, having constructive confrontation, right? And so it's not necessarily always about saying the thing. It's still important how you say it, and it's still important that it feels constructive to the person that you're talking to. Because if it doesn't feel constructive to the person that you're talking to, they're not going to hear you. With that being said, constructive confrontation comes from the strategic model of therapy. I just wanted to make sure that I put that out there. And what you're describing was someone that doesn't want to do those types of things. They might be considered, their stress communication style might be considered the placater. They want everyone to be okay. They don't want to rock the boat. They also might be titled conflict avoidant because there are individuals that they don't feel comfortable um, in any type of conflict, whether it's going to grow the relationship or not. They don't feel comfortable rocking the boat. Maybe they've never seen it done successfully. Maybe they've only seen arguments that were negative, where people were hitting below the belt and people weren't fighting fair. That because that's an actual thing. There's fighting rules. As it relates to healthy conflict versus unhealthy conflict. Maybe they didn't see that growing up, so they're so afraid to argue because they arguing has only led to someone leaving. We never, until you talk to someone, you're not going to know why they're conflict avoidant. and where that comes from. But that essentially that would be what that's called, placating and conflict avoidant.
That's so good because when I think about one of my mentors when I was younger, she was very strategic. I didn't know what she was doing when she was doing it. I didn't know that she was taking me up under her wing to for me to be mentor. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so she would do different things like she developed a rapport with me first before she said, "Hey baby, maybe you should wear some neckline shirts, she, so she developed a rapport with me before she started talking to me about different behavior changes. And when I think about what you say, she was very strategic. That's real good.
So I thank you, Mo, for the questions. They're always welcomed. I love your curious mind, and it lets me kind of flex my muscles, my therapeutic muscles. Dante, I wanted to ask you because I haven't heard from you in a while. Did you have anything that you wanted to contribute or any questions that you had before we sign out?
No, I was kind of just soaking it all up. I was like, okay, all right, doctor, okay. Okay, I'm like, ooh, okay, that's good.
Well, thank you. I want to say, and I say this on every show, but I plan to continue. Um, how much I appreciate the both of you for coming on and for lending your time. Again, the world would be really boring with only one point of view and one perspective, and having both of you here, makes me that much better because I have individuals that I can talk to, that I can pull from, and individuals that are willing and able to pull from me. And so I just want you guys to know that I appreciate you being my panel. And I thank you for showing up weekly. Showing up, yeah, weekly, week after week, and being there and being present. And so I just wanted to make sure that I said that. So big, shout out to you, Dante, Mr. Machismo, and Monicia, aka Mojo. And I look forward to hearing from both of you next week. Remember, we are here on Thursdays, mostly weekly. um, Show typically starts from around 6:15, or depending. So work with us. We're not perfection, but we are. We're a good deal. So please come. You can also watch us on YouTube. Definitely subscribe. You can watch us on Facebook Live as well. And we'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody. Enjoy your night.
Bye.